Great to be with everyone. Okay, I'm gonna be obnoxious right now. I'm grinning like a fool because Nama just like gave me a tease of something amazing and fantastic that's gonna be not ready yet, but when you see it, you're gonna flip. So you have to hold your horses and wait. But I am grinning like a fool because it was so awesome to see, and you guys are gonna love it. So I'm very, very excited that Nama is creating something yet another amazingness in the world. Okay. Hi, it's Monday. And I am very excited to have this like little bubble of you and Nama and what we're learning and ignore everything else that's going on and just be here with all of you. For those of you who are here to learn with Nama for the first time, you are all in for such a treat. And I am so excited for you to experience the uniqueness that is Nama's teaching. And I am truly just so grateful for all of you being here. It's like already crazy that it's August and like summer end is coming. I don't even want to say that out loud. But we're going to keep coming together every Monday just like this. Come when you can, feel like it, pop in. We'll always share the recordings. I hope you guys caught the last one if you missed it last week, or if you just want to revisit it during the week. And I'm so grateful that we get to learn with Nama in her beautiful way of teaching Yemima. If you're new to Nama's teaching, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. And thank you. I'm just really, really grateful to be starting the week off together with all of you. Thank you, Nama.
Thank you, Ariella, for holding the space for us. And good morning, everyone. Good to see you. Thank you for making the time this Monday morning to take time for ourselves. It's Monday, and um, I'm going to repeat what I say every Monday because for me, it's part of our little ritual. So we're here together on Monday mornings because it's a transitional time. So we're moving from the weekend, the kind of like maybe more being mode, the time of, for some of us, very full of community, and for some of us, maybe a little more quiet or lonely, a time that is just different from the rest of the week. And we're moving into the week, and it can be sometimes a bit of a, um, I don't know, a vulnerable point to go through transition. Um, Yesterday, I was this weekend in a wedding and of a dear friend. It was like her second marriage, and on uh, on Sunday morning, her family arrived, her kids, the new partner's family, and there was like a moment of tension when she was like, I need these people not to be here, and these people yes to be here, and I think all of us that have been through life events, whether it is a wedding or a bar mitzvah or just organizing a kiddush. There's something that we're about to do, and the transition time, especially when we're getting close to a transition, there's like just something very vulnerable in that place that we're not sure exactly how to be, that can bring some tension. Even if we're about to get into a week that we really love, even if we're about to get to a weekend that we really love. So I just kind of feel like I have a lot of respect to transitional times, like these Monday mornings. And especially when we live in a world where, like, it feels to me like everything we grew up with just changes so fast, and you're not exactly sure how to update your system. Like, what is it that is supposed to be the stable part of life when things are moving so fast? So, in this ask, to this question we're trying to answer with this Monday mornings, with what we call Ogen. At this point, we're actually getting ready for Elul, but we're still doing the same act of just finding some words that we can hold to, that can give us direction for the week, that can build the pathways that we want, that can build the network that will hold us more stable in very stormy times. So the two metaphors that we're always mentioning here are, one is like, to throw another anchor and another anchor into the stormy water, and in the end, they they combine, they become one network that kind of like holds our boat. We talk about like a plant, so we're maybe throwing a shoot and another shoot and another shoot until like a green sanctuary is being built from all these shoots. But last week we started also talking, and I think it is that feeling that we're moving towards Elul, that we're starting to move, that we don't want just to stay stable somewhere. We actually want to be able to move flexibly with life. We don't want to just, stable ourselves. That sometimes is kind of like our attachment to security, but we want to be able to trust. And to trust means to trust myself, that I will have an answer, to trust that I have a soul, to trust that I can be in touch with my soul, to trust that I can be turning towards myself, to trust that my life is not my mistake, to trust that I am here to be the leader with a lowercase l in my life, and I can do it. To be the learner in Yemima's language. Sorry. Um, so we're taking with us one sentence a week, and that sentence is a sentence that we can just work with. This is our kind of like um, energy holders for the week. So before our sentence, let's just take a few moments to just check in with ourselves. So let's start with a bit of writing, just what's moving in me this morning. And it can be just like automatic writing. It can be things that are like really kind of like in my mind that I want to just leave outside a threshold for just a moment to wait for me until I come out of this shared space. Um, and it can be just uh, maybe just a flow of what's going on for you. So just to turn in for a second, what's moving in me? I'll call us back in a minute. Hey, so hopefully the writing made some space inside. And okay, I want to move turn to our sentence for today, and I'm going to put it in the chat. Um, the sentence for today, I'm going to put it first in Hebrew and then in the English. This is from Yemima. So we are moving towards Elul, which means we are moving from Tisha B'Av. We're moving from brokenness and allowing ourselves to really, really feel what we feel, which is really important. And that's unique to Tisha B'Av, but it's also just an existential stance. And if we need a Tisha B'Av in a different day, of course we can do that. But our tradition tells us that we are moving from Tisha B'Av towards the new year. We're moving from Tisha B'Av into Tu B'Av, that we just celebrated this Shabbat, and we're moving to the new year. There's something like in our calendar that is so strong and so grounding. And I feel like we can learn more and more every year about our calendar. But the calendar is a real teacher. And it tells us we are going from heartbrokenness to heart openness. Because the high holidays are a place of totally open heart. That is what we're going to do. So um, we are trying here to just work with the calendar and kind of like choose our sentences to take us on this journey. So the first sentence is this, the first sentence, the sentence in Hebrew is En tikun sheba betchiya lema sheyesh. And the translation is a little long, sorry for that, but I'm just not sure always how to translate tikkun. So my friend Hannah and I, who are working always together to translate Yemima's words, chose tikkun, which you might call healing or establishing a more evolved system, does not come from rejecting what is. Uh, did the English go through? Yes, good, great. Tikkun might be repair, right? So tikkun can mean, yeah, many things. Hebrew just has very few words relative to English, and every word can mean many things. So usually I translate tikkun in Yemima as healing because she means it as it's not that you repair anything. And I think that's part of the understanding that we spoke about here a lot at some point earlier, that it's impossible to fix the world. We can't repair it to what it was, but we can repair it to what it should be. That's the healing process, and that's the establishing of a more evolved system. So, en tikkun sheba betchiya lema sheyesh. There's tikkun, right, does not come from rejecting what is. Why did I feel connected to this sentence and wanted to share it with us this morning? I feel that there's a lot of fear in me, in the world right now. There's kind of like an anxiety or anticipation because we feel that something is kind of like rambling and maybe not so stable anymore. We feel it in our governments, we feel it maybe in our own life, everybody and their circumstances. We feel the kind of like raw belly of the Leviathan, as sometimes it's called in the Midrash, that we think that we're standing on ground. There's a very crazy story in the Midrash about these rabbis that were there's this rabbi that always had very weird stories happen to him, Rabbi Baruch, and he's traveling in a boat, and then he sees an island. He's so excited. He goes to the island, starts a fire, and then he realizes that he's actually standing on the back of a whale, and the whale starts moving. And the whole story there is just sometimes you think you're on such stable ground, and you realize that you're actually standing on top of a whale. And I think that's sometimes how it feels now, and it can feel like very unsettling, and I think can bring a lot of uh sense of fear. So one thing that I want to uh share is that one of my teachers once told me that fear, and I'm sure people here maybe know it better than me, is stored in our body. So it's like energy that got stuck. At some point, something happened, the energy got stuck in our body. And she says that actually, when you're about to do something that you feel afraid, it's because energy wants to come out and help you deal. So I'm sometimes feeling okay, maybe in these times where like everything feels a little turbulent, to just kind of like stay the course, we need to use the energy that is stored in our fear bubbles in the body. So I'm inviting you to just do what she told me to do and just close your eyes for a moment and try to feel, where is fear stored in your body? I know where it is for me, it's like in my jaws. But where it is in your body, for every person, it can be in a different place, maybe also for different fears. I'm not an expert on that. And then you just kind of like direct your attention until you feel something moving in your body. So it could be like yawning, or maybe a little kind of like movements. But for me, it was just very helpful that every time when I feel fear, instead of being like, oh my gosh, I'm so afraid, what should I do? I'm just starting breathing into my jaws. So if it's helpful for anyone, Dayenu, I hope that's a good thing. But I take it very seriously because I feel like um in times of fear, we sometimes have to work pretty fast. So we kind of want to maybe freeze, but the truth is we have to respond pretty fast. And we don't want to be reckless in how we respond. So we might go through our week and have all kinds of things that come and we feel the fear coming up. We're like, what are we going to do? Yemima tells us whenever we want to do any tikkun, which means our life, and tikkun sheba b'tchiya lema sheyesh, we cannot do it with the rejection, rejecting what is. Rejecting what is might mean like, I'm like, oh no, actually what's happening is not really happening. That's rejecting what is. Or I'm saying, I really don't want what's happening right now to happen. That's also rejecting what is. Yemima says the first part of tikkun, the first part of healing is to be willing to be with what is. That's a very, very important basic thing that she's saying. She's like, and that's part of like that our life is not a mistake. Something comes, zebale tikunech, it's coming from for your healing. And it's hard to believe, truly, many times. But Yemima really says it very clearly. If something is coming to you, you can work with it. And sometimes you will feel like you want to reject it. You're like, no, I don't want this reality, or I don't believe this reality, or I'm going to overcome this reality, as opposed to the diuk. And the diuk is always to go to reality and ask, what is right for me here? Um, I feel that for me really, really speaks to me at this point of history in my life because I feel the need for flexibility, for working with whatever comes and being able to move. And um, that ability of flexibility of movement, Yemima calls it like managing the electricity. So she had a lot of thoughts about the electricity in our body. And I think today, when we know more about the brain, it makes more sense. But the Kabbalists, more generally, they had a lot of ideas about how to manage the electricity in our body. And in simple words, I would say, I think to some extent, she said, build your brain pathways. So when you're repeating something again and again, you build electricity that goes a specific way. And she says, "En tikun sheba b'tchiya lema sheyesh." Tikkun does not come from rejecting what is. That's a brain pathway to build. When something comes to me, not to reject. Because I have a brain pathway that is to reject, of course I have that. Because I did it many times for good reasons. But she says, "En tikun sheba b'tchiya lema sheyesh." Tikkun does not come from rejecting what is. So I feel like that's my invitation for this week, to try to see like the healing that we need in our personal life, the healing that we need in our bigger life. How can we start that without rejecting what is? Um, and um, I think I'm going to stop for just a moment and let's take in the chat just like what resonates with people, what comes up, and then I will have one more thing that I want to share before we're closing. So, um, and tikkun sheba b'tchiya lema sheyesh. Tikkun, the healing, the establishing a more evolved system, does not come from rejecting what is. What does that um, mean for you this morning? Thank you for these words. Again, Ariel, I'm telling you, this is just your treasure trove for swag. Um, the reality is what it is. Our work begins when we take what's real and shape what we can. Add positive energy or actions to what is. Open up, listen, feel. Hold the space for love to enter in place of fear. Yawn a lot with your fear, I would add. Um, what we think is stable never actually is. It's true because life is energy, right? So it all the time moves. And we want to think that it's stable so much. And this is where rejection comes from many times. Because we're like, no, it's not possible that it's not stable. It's not possible that this is not how it is. Um, go with the flow of life. This is such a big commitment to go with the flow of life. Um, yeah, we make a lot of efforts to prevent change. We want stability, of course we do. Um, right, and even other people's, exactly, Marnie, what you're saying, even other people's perspectives, also to believe that it really is, it really is what it is, and to go from there. Um, I'm just going through, there's so many beautiful things. I'm not going to be able to read all of that, but I'm of course reading it afterwards. Labor, childbirth with it, which is a transitional place, totally fear and resistance. And Yemima has a beautiful chelik. If anyone here needs to give birth, you can write to me, and I'm happy to send you that chelik from Yemima, where she speaks about the fear and resistance that we have in the last moments, and we're like, actually, I don't want to do it. She's like, but you're going to do it. So how are we working there? And sometimes I feel life is like that, right? You're like, okay, actually, I don't want to do it, but like that's it. The head is coming out. You have to do it. How do you work with fear? As we're all the time birthing ideas, projects, sometimes babies, but like things are coming through us. Our soul has a creative property. This is our part of God. Hashem is a creator, the divine is a creator, and we are creators too. And there's births happening all the time, and therefore there's fear all the time and resistance because this is a very frightening thing to do. Um, okay, thank you so much. Um, thank you so much. Beautiful. Um, okay, so I'm just looking at our time, um, and I guess I'll. Do we have time for one more story, Ariella? Not really.
A short one? I think it depends on the people in the room.
Um, okay, I'll make it short and then maybe I'll repeat it next week. But to make a long story short, this is a story about my great-grandfather who arrived at um, the concentration camp Auschwitz with his three sons, with his wife, his three sons, and his daughter. And he was standing there in the front of the camp, and you know that there was like this selection, right? And they were selecting who's going to life, who's going to death. And he was like relatively old, so he was 50. And for these kind of like type of things, and his sons were like in their teens. So all the sons were sent to the life line, and he was sent to the other line. And um sorry, one important so they were standing there and they were trying to tell the person who was doing the selection, no, he's actually like younger. He actually, they put stones in his shoes so that he'll look a little taller. And he was like, no, you're going um to the death line. And then years later, I was in my 20s and I was doing my master's in education. And I had this coming dream. I had this dream come again and again that I'm standing in front of this selection line and I'm telling them, no, I'm really doing something useful. I'm really doing something useful. And I put like, I'm telling them I'm a plumber, I'm a plumber. And they're sending me to to the wrong line. But saying that I'm a plumber was my attempt to try to be useful and to and it whatever, I said I'm gonna do it short and then now I'm going long, but I was just like, I think that for me, I was like learning to be an educator and I felt like maybe it's not useful enough and I was afraid that maybe I'm not gonna be useful enough in the world and something bad will happen to me. I won't be able to save myself. And I had this story about this great grandfather in my head all the time. I was like, okay, that's probably where this like existential fear is coming from. So then a few years later, I'm meeting my many removed times cousin, and she says to me, "Oh, I want to give you this is her grandfather was my grandfather's brother, and he wrote a memoir about their time." And I'm reading the memoir, and I'm realizing that even though he said he was a plumber, I thought in my head that he said he was a plumber, and that's how he got saved because he was saved. He got out of there. But in the memoir, I found out what I said to you in the beginning, because I didn't tell the story correctly, that he actually said that and then was still sent to the death line, but in the last moment he jumped back to the lifeline and got in, and eventually after a few months got out and lived many good years afterwards in Israel. So why am I saying that? Just because I think that in my brain I was like, okay, I have to be really careful. I have to learn the right thing. I have to all the time do the but then when I read the memoir, I was like, no, he actually, even though he did all the right things, it didn't help. The thing that helps is to be able to respond in the moment in the right way. And that is diuk. So maybe that story is a little too removed, but it's so strong for me. So I love going back to it. But I just kind of feel like what I'm learning from this grandfather and also with for my other grandfather, and that's for a different time, is the ability when reality is unbelievable to still be able to go back to yourself and respond, not to reject reality. In Bezrat Hashem, we should have also many places where we like reality, but like to be able um to breathe into our fear and make the right decision for us. And sometimes it will work, sometimes it won't work. But like to do the duke, to do the right thing for us in that moment. So the sentence for this week that I'm inviting us to walk with is En tikun sheba betchiya lema sheyesh. If we want to do the healing, then we're starting from not rejecting what is and allowing eventually, we're going to work on it in the next few weeks, our heart to open. So, but we start with just not rejecting what is. Um, as we're closing, please just put one word or sentence in the chat of like, what is it that you want to see to commit to taking for you for this week? And the group can be witnessing, and it can be just one word that you want to just walk with, it can be something beyond. And thank you so much for flowing with us this morning, and we'll open the group for 10 minutes of conversation for whoever wants. No pressure if you need to go. Please feel free to go, but I'm happy to stay here and chat with whoever wants to chat.